Hi, so I'm Nicole, and I just got done watching a documentary called Bipolarized that was directed by Rita Kotzia and tells the story of Ross Mackenzie, who was misdiagnosed as bipolar, put on medication, um, and eventually come to find out that he actually had PTSD, and he's decided to manage his life off of medications and is exposing basically the mental health system at this point being a fraud. That we are being diagnosed with more and more illnesses more and more often so we can be given more and more drugs. And I have been saying this for a long time. I have been tapering actively off of a massive cocktail of medications. I also developed chronic pain after I was given antipsychotics, several, and ended up on a total of 34 different medications at different times. Um, but also between the pain medications, the nerve medications, the antidepressants, the anti-anxiety, the antipsychotic, the pain meds, the muscle relaxers. I was on one point at least 12 medications a day. Maxed out on Vicodin, several psychiatric medications at a time. Um, After I was diagnosed incorrectly with bipolar in 2001, my doctor at the time uh, wrote up for me on disability. And so I went on Social Security disability. I was 30 years old. And a year later, was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I had been on medication starting in 1993 when I was 21. And I came to a different area of the country and was, kind of manipulated into moving someplace I did not want to go at all, and was under a lot of pressures from a kind of over domineering yet emotionally negligent mother, that basically when you don't feel good you need to take something to feel better so you'll go away and leave me alone. So when I found myself in a new place, literally dropped here in the desert alone, my father took a flight with me here, put me in the dorms, and went back to New York. I'm in New Mexico now. Um, and I did not know a single other person in the state of New Mexico when I moved here. So I was very upset, very circumstantially depressed. I didn't want to live here. I didn't want to come here in the first place. I felt that I needed to satisfy my mother more than I would even begin to think about satisfying myself. Um, so I went and asked for drugs in 1993 and was readily given them, and ended up in the psych ward shortly after that for 7 days. Terrible, terrible treatment. No help whatsoever. Given anti-anxieties at that point. I had just been on an antidepressant before that. And Ended up checking myself out of the psych ward because they just basically gave me anti-anxieties. I never did actually see a psychologist or psychiatrist in the entire time that I was there. I just spent time in group, listening to other people's horrible, horrible stories, making me feel like the world was even worse than it already was. Um, I managed to trudge through my 20s, on and off, antidepressants, not super over medicated, 2 at a time, maybe. And it was on and off. Not fun, but once I hit the bipolar diagnosis at 30, that was uh, that was the theft. That was the beginning of the theft of 20 years of my life. Excuse me, 26 years of my life. Still got a little fog going on up here. I have tapered, I don't know if I said this yet, I've tapered off of 7 medications in 5 years. I am in my sixth right now. Cut down about 60 milligrams on this Lamictal. And I have 2 more to go after this. And the next one that I'm going to be doing, Cymbalta, actually, I did a rapid taper when I didn't know better. And I ended up in the ER with a mini stroke. And they were actually really, really horrible to me there too, because I was labeled as a psych patient. So you're crazy and you need to just take your meds. And so I actually had to stop the active taper on that medication and hold it at a certain level. Um, and I was actually on 3 times the recommended dose of the medication that would be used for fibromyalgia, and 60 milligrams over the dose that the manufacturer recommends for anyone to take for anything. That's just one medication. Maxed out on Vicodin, 10 milligrams every single day. Every 3 months, I had to have liver panels for all of these things. I've had probably, I want to say, 20 psychiatrists, probably 6 therapists. I've got a good one now who I actually rarely need to consult with, because tapering off of these medications has helped me be able to cope with my life, and I can do it by myself now. We laid down a foundation. I opened up my guts and I faced enormous fears and pains. The thing is, everybody has those. Like, my pains and fears aren't any worse than anybody else's, and no one else's pains and fears are any worse than mine. It's all relative. And we are now in a society where we want instant gratification. We don't have the attention span. And we are told, if you have any feelings outside of this little box right here, you are, you have a disorder, and the only thing to do is take drugs. Well, coming from a person who made Big Pharma, I would say a really conservative estimate. At one point, I was making them probably $100,000 a year. Uh, Conservative estimate. At one time, it was $5,000. A few years back, it was like $5,000 a month. Now it's only about $2,000 a month for 3 medications. It's been essentially the worst hell imaginable. I am in pain 24/7. To what degree? Depends. I do have permanent damage from that mini stroke that I had. Um, Trans ischemic attack, which is the technical word for mini stroke. Uh, I have nerve drooping, so I feel it on the side of my face. You can essentially cut me down the center, and this entire side of my body is just weaker, and lots of pins and needles, numbness, peripheral neuropathy, etc., etc., etc. I have nerve damage that was diagnosed by pain management, which I no longer go to pain management anymore either, because they do exactly the same thing that the psych doctors do, which is, oh, you've got this, so you need this pill, or these pills, or every weird possible profit making process you can go through. Um, it's the deficit in our healthcare system. You know, they don't have the time. They need to shuttle you in and out and diagnose you and medicate you, treat you within 15 minutes. You don't have time. You can't possibly be able to prescribe drugs that are going to alter somebody's brain after speaking to them for 15 minutes. You can't. It's killing people. I have attempted suicide during my 12 years housebound. It was a yearly thing. Um, I have also had complete numb in my Cymbalta taper that I had 4.5 years ago that caused mini stroke. I've had robotic numb suicide attempts. Uh, Nothing like I had ever experienced before in my life, and I've had them. Um, you know, it's a factor, especially with what I've gone through. But these were like wake up, be fine on a Wednesday, wake up on a Saturday, and coldly feel like, okay, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and die today. I just don't really want to do this, and you know, whatever. That was twice, and had plenty of pain pills and other pills on hand. Um, I have apparently the constitution of a horse. Handful of Vicodin, half a handful of Soma, narcotics, Xanax, probably 25 Xanax, all at one time. I'd just wake up. Uh, Tolerance. Tolerance for chemicals in my brain. Um, the only chemical imbalance is the one that is caused by medication. That's, there is no, to my knowledge, there is no test that can measure the levels of neurotransmitters in your brain. By the way, forgot to mention that I actually was groomed through the DSM, etc., etc., because I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and did a semester master's degree in counseling. And I know the APA, the American Psychiatric Association, well. I know how they diagnose things. Being outside the system and inside the system, I know what it's about. And it's about drugs, and it's about making money. It is not about what is really wrong with you. How You need to be able to feel shit. Nobody wants to do that. Everybody wants to flee the pain. Life is pain. Life is pain. And you know, it's the best kind of pain because I've had it all. I have had every possible kind of pain you can imagine. I've had a hysterectomy. Maybe up there with the worst pains. My pains are, my pain threshold is so incredibly high. I had a wisdom tooth removed, and because I've already withdrawn off of opiates, any introduction of opiates would then instantly trigger a withdrawal response. So I can't put any of that in my body at all. So I had Novocaine for a wisdom tooth, period. And went through the pain of having uh, 5 rooted wisdom tooth pulled. So I have, but I would way prefer that. I would way prefer being depressed, being sad, being devastated, um, in order to be able to have physical good days and also to feel joy and love and compassion, empathy. Um, yeah, I cry. Yeah, it fucking sucks. There are a lot of aspects to my life that really suck. Um, there are also ways in which I am fortunate beyond my luck. So, I know that as well. And the only way that I know that now is being clearer, more clear headed. I mean, I've still got years to go. This journey started at 30. This over medication, misdiagnosis started at 30, and I am now 46. I have a minimum of 8 years before I will be able to stop taking the pills. That doesn't mean that I won't be tapering or in withdrawal anymore. Yeah, I can never have pain medication again. I can never have alcohol again, ever. I cannot have I cannot have nicotine. I cannot have caffeine. I cannot have anything that would trigger addiction centers, or I will be flipped. I had bronchitis and was really forced into having to have steroids in order to be able to breathe. And yeah, that was a freaking nightmare. Oh, that's a that's my pill alarm. The irony, um, letting me know that I have to take. This is the third alarm of the day to take these fucking pills. Um, but I stay safe and slow. 10% a month to 6 weeks, depending. Kitty. Um, Another really huge thing that does help me physically and with depression is I am a medical cannabis user. It is legal in the state of New Mexico, and it has literally saved my life. Uh, there have been occasions in which I have felt that I would want to harm myself, and I can use cannabis. I use it in many different methods. I do smoke it. I do vape the concentrate. I use edibles and I use topicals. And I have specified strains that work best for me. Um, and I use them in combination for whatever the problem is at the time. If it's severe pain that I'm having, or I'm having nerve pain, like I have at the moment, feels kind of like having a really bad sunburn and then rolling around in the sand just continually. Or um, having a fight with a really fine needled cactus and losing. Um, I do a lot of this. That's the nerve pain. All through this process, the nerves have to wake back up again because the whole purpose of the antidepressants and the nerve medications is to just deaden the nerve, deaden your feelings, deaden everything. So now I have to go through the physical issues of this taper process while I am going off of medications that were numbing how I felt about it. And it's really hard. Like, really fucking hard. This is. There is. It is really, 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 really difficult to try to explain this. Um, what I would like anyone to take away from this is please, 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 please try anything and everything else. Anything. If something spiritual works for you, do that. Try acupuncture. Things work for different people in different ways. Try cannabis. Um, Try some more homeopathic remedies. Arnica. You know, there are other things out there other than pharma. Do yoga, meditation. Um, there's so many different ways. One of the biggest things is the only way to get out of your pain is through it. Done. End of story. You cannot put a cork on your pain and expect it to go somewhere. You put the cork on the top, it can't get out. That's really what medication does. It just bottles up what the problem is and then it shakes it up like crazy. And then we are made to be to blame for the medications failing or causing us problems. Um, when you start to go off these medications, they are, you feel the things that you were feeling before and then freak out and need the medication. In my case now, I am physically dependent on these medications to a point where the littlest difference, the littlest tweak, can cause me to feel the taper within hours. It's called interdose withdrawal, but it is also, it is, when it comes to a certain level in your taper, it's constant. The pain is constant. The difficulty is constant. You have to know each month that you're walking into fire. Like, I know what I'm facing. I know how bad this is going to be. I know every month I am going to lose my mind for like a week. I'm going to be so moody. I'm going to have a hard time in here. My body will be on fire completely. My legs will be sometimes intolerable. Ankles kill me. Um, but I'm doing it. I've been doing it. I'm going to do it. I am going to eventually have no pharmaceuticals in my system. I refuse to take any new medications for any reason aside from breathing for things like bronchitis. I'm going to be managing my pain and the actual PTSD that I have, not bipolar, with cannabis when necessary. Um, I have days where topicals can really help the pain problems. Um, and it's what is working for me. I also do a lot of self-reflection. I'm a musician, um, and now I can write music again after 25 years of not being capable. I did not have the brain capacity to do that. Um, when I was housebound, I had a walker and a cane, and I was 35. Um, Now I have the greatest complaint ever, that I don't want to lug around my music equipment when I'm playing gigs. Um, you know, I have a life now, and I'm really excited for what's going to be coming, even though I know that there's a lot of really hard shit that's gonna be going. But I know that every time I do this, every medication I purge from my system, I feel better. I feel more of who I think I was always supposed to be. That makes any sense? Who I really am. And I'm not afraid for people to see that anymore. Now I have a crushing headache. That happens as well. Um, I'm not afraid for people to know that I have flaws and weaknesses and that I feel pain and that things hurt. Um, I used to feel a big sense of disappointment and I don't want to be a burden on people. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that I really hope that by saying, hey, look, I have had these problems, I have gone through this, that somebody can hear the story. Like I heard Ross's story in the documentary that spawned this video and said, you know, oh my God, like that person is emboldening me to be able to, tell the story further. Um, I got time to go. And I'm considering letting people in on the journey because I don't want anybody to go through this. Anyone. I could never imagine an enemy in my life that I could ever say I would want to suffer what I have experienced. It's inhumane. It's absolutely inhumane and cruel. And I think just knowing that it's okay to not be okay is probably the biggest thing that gets me through. And it's okay for you to not be okay too. It's okay for everybody to not be okay sometimes. If you're moving forward at all, you are succeeding. Every day, this is my full-time job, is to get up, take drugs, have as good a time as I possibly can, go to sleep, repeat. And I don't feel like I need to apologize anymore for having a bad day or crying. And I don't feel like I have to label everything that I do either because I'm just a person. I'm never going to reach the plateau, that peak that we're sold, that we're supposed to be reaching for. So just know, I think what I have discovered is that I am way fucking stronger than I ever thought I could ever be. And I really, really, truly believe that each and every one of us is stronger than we believe we are. And you don't need to fit in the box. And I hope that just one person sees this and figures out that there may be another way. There's an alternative. There's another way to live. You don't need to destroy your feelings in order to be happy and succeed. That's been my first installment. And anyone else that's going through this too, good luck. Just have a good day, man. Just make it till tomorrow.